Our next guest is San Francisco's district attorney. In fact, the city's first female district attorney, and she has important advice on how to protect ourselves and our families from crime. Her new book is entitled Smart on Crime, A Career Prosecutor's Plan to Make Us Safer. Welcome, Kamala Harris.
Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for being here.
Big fan.
So,
tell us what you mean by smart on crime. I've read a bit of the book, and I gather this is different from the conventional get tough on crime approach.
Well, it's basically saying if we're going to really get tough on crime, we also have to address the underlying causes of crime and get tough on those. And so this is a book that basically says, you know, I think we're doing quite well in terms of our response to violent crime. Lock them up, there's no question. But when it comes to what is actually occupying a lot more space in our criminal justice system and therefore costing us a lot more, it's nonviolent crime. And I think we need to address that and deal with it in a way that ends the cycles. In California, we have the highest recidivism or reoffense rate for known offenders in the entire country. And so in the book, Smart on Crime means basically let's not just have as two options, soft or tough. Let's be smart instead and realize, for example, that that when we address issues that face children, that's not a small issue, that's actually a big issue. And if we can intervene and deal with the elementary school student who is truant, if we can deal with the child who's growing up in a home where there's violence or in a community where there's violence and therefore suffers from PTSD, if we deal with that when that person is a child, we will reap great rewards at the back end.
you kind of look like, you kind of look at crime in a pyramid. I remember you talked about that. I thought that made total sense, where the top of the pyramid are violent crimes, violent offenders, and the bottom is just
nonviolent. So exactly, Janelle.
And we should focus on that.
Exactly. So if you look at what's occupying space in the criminal justice system, look at it as though we're on a pyramid. At the top, the most serious and violent crime, it's our priority for understandable reasons because of the pain and suffering it causes the victim and because of the outrageousness of the conduct. But what is actually taking up much more space in our criminal justice system is what's in the middle and the bottom of that pyramid. And we cannot afford to just have a one-size-fits-all approach. The reality is that we have to look at the cycles that are happening on a continual basis, and we have to do what we can to break those cycles.
So if truancy is a big factor, possibly when the kids get older and might, commit some crimes, how do we get them in school and stay in class?
So part of what I talk about in the book is, in fact, the first half of the book I talk about what I think are the myths in the criminal justice system and about the criminal justice system. And the second half I talk about best practices. So one of the chapters is dedicated to what I believe is a myth, which is the belief that children are resilient. Right? Meaning that people think, well, they'll grow out of it. And they'll bounce back. Or look at little Johnny. After that traumatic event happened, he's playing in the sandbox. He'll be fine. Right? When the reality is that when a traumatic event occurs in the life of a child, it will be forever imprinted unless we take seriously the need to engage in intervention and to help that child process and deal with and cope with what caused that trauma. And the same is true on this issue of elementary school truancy. You had me here probably about a year ago talking about that. I started an initiative that basically started prosecuting parents if their elementary school child was chronically and habitually truant. Because I was looking at our crime statistics and I figured out that 94% of our homicide victims who were under the age of 25 were high school dropouts. And then when you look backward, it's the elementary school student who has missed 50, 60 days of a 180-day school year who will be that high school dropout. And those were the cases that we've seen when we started this truancy initiative.
Now, part of your Get Smart on Crime approach is aimed specifically at women. Tips for women to protect themselves and their families from crime. And you advise women to know the net. What do you mean by that?
Absolutely. The net, what we have, we're in a whole new world with this technology, and it's so very exciting, and we don't want to do anything that would hinder the growth of this. We're just at the beginning stage of where I think this is going to go. But it is a new world. And, we learned when we were growing up and we learned to raise our children to say, okay, we know that there are certain places where you won't be safe, so we'll teach you how to be safe. So, for example, don't cross the street without making sure the light is green or holding my hand. But we haven't learned yet necessarily how to teach children to be safe when they use the internet. And so, for example, one of the things that we talk about in the book is you wouldn't let your child go to her room with a perfect stranger. But having the computer in her room allows her to develop a relationship with a perfect stranger and maybe develop a relationship of trust because she's in an environment where she feels safe.
Right.
She's smelling the aroma from mom's great food that was cooked in that kitchen, right? Everything is familiar, and she starts then disclosing her insecurities or her secrets to some stranger on the web who eventually says, meet me at the park. So what we want to do is we want to teach our children how to be safe, how to distinguish between friends online and real friends, and we want to teach parents how to know how to have those conversations with their children in a way that they can foster healthy relationships and also monitor their children's behavior.
There's one thing I'd like you to touch on quickly, and that is what women who are being abused should do. What's the first step abused women need to take?
The first step they need to take is to know that if they reach out for help, they will be supported and not judged. So often, you know, another myth that I talk about in the book is that you have to protect yourself from the stranger. Yes, you protect yourself from the stranger, but more likely than not, the person who is likely to harm a child or anyone is going to be someone who you know.
Right.
And likely someone who may be in a relationship of trust with you. So what we want to do is we want women who are being abused to not feel as though you put yourself in that situation, so you deserve what you're getting. So it means teaching women that if you reach out for help and you call a shelter or you call the police, you will not be judged, you will be protected, and you will be supported. When a woman starts to feel that she is being abused and she knows it, at the beginning stage, reach out for help because it's only going to get worse. And the other thing we want to teach women is just to know that you have a right to own your power, you have a right to feel safe in your home and in your community, and there are a lot of us who are invested in making sure you are safe.
Well, much of the help you need is in this book, Smart on Crime. Kamala Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you, Spencer.
And you can find more advice and tips on our website. We'll be right back.
Thank you.